this one designed to capture the attention and support of President Woodrow Wilson, because he's not making votes for women a priority. Now, we've been out here for, goodness, almost a year now, rain or shine, 6 days a week, every day it's Sunday, in hopes of getting his attention and support. Now, how do you think the president responded to the first group of people to ever picket the White House? That's so great. Well, he ignored us. But then he invited us in for tea. Would you take his tea? No. It seems like a polite thing to do, but it seems you all know that our thirst for equality will not be quenched with tea. Although we do have similar grievances to our revolutionary tea-loving ancestors in Boston, we believe that taxation without representation is tyranny. But we're not going to waste good beverage over it. Do you pay taxes, ma'am? Yes. Women pay taxes just as men do. They should vote just as men do. Can you all take 2 steps closer, please? Thank you. Now, friends, things have gotten complicated. As you know, America has entered the Great War overseas. You know, big war, lots of countries. Feels like it's the whole world. Hopefully there's never another one. You know, the Great War. And many people think that it's inappropriate for women to be asking for the right to vote when we should be using our energy to support the war effort. Now, I'm torn. I support the war effort. My own brother George just enlisted last week. But how can we send our soldiers overseas to protect democracy and yet deny the ultimate right of democracy, the right to vote, to half of our citizens here in the United States? It seems to be a democracy hypocrisy, don't you think? Yes. So after much deliberation, I did decide to join the Silent Sentinels. Would someone like to hold my banner? Okay, come on down. Go ahead and hold that there. You want a sash like mine too? Sure. Now, as I said, things have gotten complicated. We've started to gather crowds in the street. Oh, much like yourselves. Some are curious, some supportive, but many people have come to harass us because of this whole war controversy. To push us, pull us, rip our banners, spit on us. I think we're amongst a friendly crowd here. And then this summer things got out of control and the authorities lost their patience. Do you think they arrested the angry crowd blocking the street in front of us? No. They arrested the Silent Sentinels who were standing there, silently, on the sidewalk. On what charges do you think? What would be their legitimate reason for arresting this young woman? Disturbing the peace. Trespassing. Well, it is public property. How many tourists trespass outside the White House just waiting to catch a glimpse of their commander-in-chief? Yet they are not arrested. Nice try, though. What did you say? Disturbing the peace. Disturbing the peace. We're standing here silently. It's the crowd on the street that's disturbing the peace. Nice try, though.
Vagrancy.
Say again?
Vagrancy.
Vagrancy. Well, we're only out here during sunlight hours. You know, as women, we need to be careful. So we aren't spending the night and proving ourselves to be the homeless type. So that won't work.
Gathering without a permit.
Gathering without a permit. This could have been a legitimate reason, perhaps in a different location. But here's what they came up with. Obstructing traffic.
Oh.
That's right. If other people are upset by our protest and they stand in the street, we get arrested for it. Doesn't seem very fair, does it? Now, of course, those suffragists argue the next day in court that they were merely exercising their First Amendment right of freedom of speech, through silence, mind you, but they were still sentenced to a choice. They had a choice. Pay a small fine or go to prison. Which one would you choose?
Prison. Make a statement.
Oh, very bold. Silent Sentinel at heart. Prison. Yes, imagine what a difficult decision that must have been for women, particularly those with the responsibility of raising children at home. But those brave women were prepared to go to prison. I've never been to prison. We're not hardened criminals. We're upstanding, law-abiding women. Women of grace and wit and charm. Women of intelligence and education. Women of fashion. Yes, we don't belong in prison. But if that's what it takes to build awareness and support for the cause, then I suppose that's what we'll need to do. Have you had breakfast today? Good, because when we get arrested and go to prison, we're going to start a hunger strike. We're going to refuse to eat in order to call attention to the fact that we're not being treated as political prisoners. I know, doesn't seem to make sense. Why in the world would you starve yourself in prison? But think of this. No government official wants the starvation deaths of upstanding, law-abiding women on their hands. It would be a publicity nightmare. And so they may choose to release us when we get weak, or they may do as they did to the British suffragettes and take to forced feeding. It's awful, humiliating, nauseating. Hope it doesn't happen to us. But hopefully, if these women can continue to endure such torment in prison and word of their inhumane treatment reaches the general public, it can only build awareness and support for our cause. Now, I know we may never agree on the best strategies for winning the vote, whether it's showing our patriotism by supporting the war effort or picketing the White House, getting arrested, going to prison, starting a hunger strike, and getting force-fed. But I think it will take all of these strategies, all of us working towards the same goals in order for us to achieve what we've been working for 70 years. 7 decades of organizing, speaking, writing, lobbying, petitioning, parading, and now protesting. And hopefully, if our movement is successful, future revolutionaries who want to work towards amending unjust laws can learn from our strategies of peaceful protest. And let's not forget the power of the press. Good publicity, bad publicity, doesn't matter. As long as it gets people talking about the issue. And aside from the Great War, right now in 1917, this is what people are talking about. Who are those women standing outside the White House? What do they want? The right to vote? Do they deserve the right to vote? Who deserves the right to vote? Who deserves the right to decide who deserves the right to vote? Whew. Get people thinking, get people talking, and hopefully we'll take a step in the right direction. Speaking of steps, can you all take 2 steps closer so she doesn't get arrested? You're blocking traffic. Oh, do we have any anti-suffragists out here? Sir, what's your reason for keeping women out of the voting booth? It's a hard one, isn't it? Yes? But I'll tell you what, sir, you're not alone. There's a lot of people right now in 1917 who don't think that women should have the right to vote. What do you think one of their reasons might be?
Abandoning their families.
They might abandon their families for an hour to go down to the polling place and cast their vote. Yes, certainly. Now, being an active voter certainly does not mean that someone is abandoning their families. But it certainly could be an argument that might make people afraid. Yes? What other reasons do you think people might have for trying to keep women out of the voting booth?
Women are irrational.
Women are irrational! That hurts my feelings. Perhaps women can be emotional, and perhaps those emotions are the result of 27 consecutive days of biting our tongues in the face of flagrant inequality. And when every complaint of misogyny and inequity is met with a medical diagnosis of hysteria, perhaps those emotions are justified. Now, when every gender of the human race is able to push a watermelon through a garden hose, then we can begin to compare scores in the sport of emotional fortitude. Not to mention physical stamina. Nice job. What else do you have for me? Reasons for keeping women out of the voting booth. You got one now? They might want a raise. Yes, they might want fair working conditions, equal pay, certainly. Now, women have proven themselves capable to organize for causes that are important to them. And who is funding the fight against suffrage? Yes? Or if women have proven that they are able to organize, they will advocate for fair working wages, child labor laws, safety in the workplace, and factory owners will lose their profits. So they fund the fight against suffrage. Yes? The liquor industries, if women are able to vote, we may just pass that prohibition, yes? And the liquor industries will lose their profits, so they fund the fight against suffrage. Now, I can't see into the future, but I do have strong women's intuition, and I'd say probably prohibition's going to pass before women's suffrage, so we can't take all the credit for that debacle. Yes? Nice job. What else do you have for me? Reasons for keeping women out of the voting booth right now in 1917.
Fear.
It dilutes your power as a white male property owner. I suppose so. It does give a voice to more people, yes? But are we not 2 sides of the same coin? Are we not people? People who want to work towards building better communities, yes? Now, sir, I think we have a lot in common, yes? We're both white and we're both property owners. Do you own a business too? A little bit? Yeah, me too. I inherited it from my husband, although I was running it, to be honest, all by myself. Charles was a good man. He always voted in our interests. But then he got sick and he passed away. I found myself a landowner, a business owner, head of household, and no one to vote in our interests. What of the widows? What of the widows? And I must say this number of widows will continue to grow as we continue to send our soldiers overseas to protect democracy. Women are being asked to fill the shoes of both mother and father, husband and wife, and yet there is no one to vote in their interests. Yes? Nice job. What other reasons can you think of? What do you got for me?
Not smart enough.
They're not, big words. Yes. Women don't have the mind for politics or the intellectual capabilities of making an informed decision in the voting booth. Let me remind you, women are the educational backbone of our nation. As mothers and as school teachers, we are already tasked with the responsibility of raising and educating our future voting citizens of America. And how can a person take credit for their own intelligence without giving some credit to the women who raised and educated them? Nice job. What do you got for me?
If women get the right to vote, then soon we'll be giving the right to vote to, like, black people.
Oh,
That's crazy.
we've already done that.
Really?
Oh yes, 15th Amendment. It happened quite quickly after the Civil War. Yes, voting rights cannot be denied based on color, race, or previous servitude. But the 15th Amendment did basically clarify no votes for women. Yes, some places it was a little bit legally shady, but women have already been asked to wait until the end of a war, just as we are right now with this great war that we're talking about. We've been asked to wait until the end of the war, the Civil War. And here we are, 70 years later in our campaign for the right to vote, still asking for the right to vote. But yes, there are some debates as to whether or not giving women the right to vote will give all women the right to vote. And it will. And it does cause some consternation among some groups. And that is the way that it is right now. But hopefully, 100 years from now, future Americans can look back and recognize the successes and challenges and failures of our movement and continue to take a step forward. For after women win the right to vote, there will still be more struggles. But without the right to vote, we're powerless in all future endeavors for equality. Yes, but ultimately, a 19th Amendment would grant voting rights regardless of gender, and that would include all women in every state. Yes, as long as they're American citizens and of voting age, which is 21 right now. Yes, nice job. Other reasons you can think of for trying to keep women out of the voting booth.
Politics is too dirty.
Politics is dirty. It's a dirty, dirty business. Far too messy for women to associate themselves with. Well, ladies, have we not already mastered the art of cleaning up other people's dirty, dirty messes? We diffuse sibling rivalry and promote peaceful negotiations in the home. Why should our good housekeeping skills not extend beyond the home and into the political arena? Nice job. Yes? And I see you, Senator, and I know you're trying to decide whether or not to support the federal suffrage amendment. So, Senator, let's talk about what's most important to you. Re-election and the continuation of your party's control in Congress, am I right? Women's intuition. Now, Senator, a federal suffrage amendment is inevitable. It might not happen this year, in 1917, or next year, but the inequitable status quo cannot last for long. Senator, if you were to support a federal suffrage amendment granting women the right to vote, imagine the instantaneous boost of loyal voters you would have once women become enfranchised. But if you don't support a federal suffrage amendment, the inevitable will be merely delayed. And when women do get the right to vote, do you want to be the politician that has kept it from them for so long? How will that affect your popularity as you seek re-election? I can already tell you're a wise man, Senator. Think on that. Whatever your reason is for keeping women out of the voting booth, it's based in prejudice, not in reason. If you are wise, compassionate, conscientious, and fair, there's no other option than to grant women an equal voice in our government. Let me hear a votes for women. Votes for women. Votes for women. Votes for women. I'm glad I got that off my chest because now I got to go to the White House and stand there silently. It's going to be a hard thing to do. I got a lot to say. Ma'am, you pay taxes, right? Women pay taxes just as men do. They should vote just as men do. Ma'am, do you obey laws?
Yes.
Women obey laws just as men do. They should vote just as men do. Ma'am, do you suffer from bad government?
Absolutely.
Women suffer from bad government just as men do. They should vote just as men do. Women are citizens of a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Women are people. Not because she's a mother, not because she's a wife, because she's a person. An American citizen under the law, and that is the reason. The only reason that we need to prove that women, those who hold our morals in balance, our families in comfort, and the human race in prosperity, deserve an equal voice in our government. Let me hear votes for women.
Votes for women.
Let's give it up for our silent sentinel. Very good. I'll be up here for a few minutes if you got questions, curiosities, if you want to join the movement, or if you just want to get a photo with my banner, by all means, feel free to come down and do so. But make sure you get those photos in the national paper. We've learned the power of the press. Yes, are you at the Washington Post or the New York Times?